All right, here we go. OverDrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, up on TSN Plus. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan on a beautiful mail-in Friday. Not necessarily weather-wise, but it's a Friday in June, and we're getting closer to the Cup Final. Media Day down there in Florida. It was a PA day for my kids today. I think everyone had a PA day. Yeah, PA Days in June. That makes a lot of sense. When
Teachers
we're
are
about to have 2
enjoying
months
that
off.
long weekend. Listen,
right before the summer, just to set the scene.
How'd you like having them home? How did you like having them home?
Well, let me tell you something. We went out. We had something on the back burner that we had been telling our kids we would do for a while. We went to the Science Center today.
Wow.
And it made me realize, and I knew this when I was in school, I am so bad and so stupid when it comes to science. And you know how they have exhibits all over the place and you're reading up on like how different things work. And my mind was in a pretzel. And I had a very humbling moment because I was reading through this thing like an anatomy kind of thing.
Yeah. Your kid comes up to you and says, oh, if you strike the match and then you rub it against 2 sticks and you're like, what?
That was exactly what happened. It wasn't actually mine. It was like 2 other kids who were a little bit older. Yeah. And they start explaining it. They're like, oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, no, you do this. And I'm like, oh, I got to get out of here. If these kids had any idea that I have no idea what the hell this thing actually means, I would be so embarrassed. So the Science Center was very humbling. But I guess it's not going to be there for long either, right? That's a big issue in the city is that they're moving it down to the waterfront. Yeah, I guess you could take the TTC, though, if you want, because they didn't they avoided a strike last night. So that was
good.
Positive
That's
news.
Good to hear.
Yeah, everyone's flying around in the people movers, right? Noodles, your favorite.
Love the
people movers all over the place.
Another big issue I saw, a little tweet today, is that Morgan Rielly was told to stop painting his house.
I saw that too. What was the reasoning behind that? I couldn't.
I couldn't even
using
click
lead
on the
paint
tweet.
or why? Like I don't understand.
I just saw a tweet, Noodles. It was so insane to read the headline. It said, Morgan Rielly and Tessa Virtue were ordered to stop painting their house. And I had to keep scrolling because I couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
It's big news.
That is strange because I guess, something was going on with the exterior painting of their house because it's a heritage home. Bit of a humble brag. I'd be calling up and saying heritage home in Rosedale. Like every single online link made sure that everyone knew it was in Rosedale too, which
so what,
I like
they can't paint it because it's a heritage home? They bought it.
I guess so. Yeah, so I guess I'm reading it here. Because the house was built in 1912, it's located in the North Rosedale Heritage Conservation District. Permission has to be granted to make any alterations to the exterior. And I guess Mo and Tessa just said, screw it, man. We're painting this. We're going to paint this thing.
What? Just pay the fine.
And someone called it in. Someone called it in.
But I want to know,
Hayes,
I want to know who called I want to know who called them out.
It's the same people that call that Gulf line going, that guy crossed the line. It's the same jackasses who do that. Like, just mind your own business. That's what it is. There's there's always somebody that's got to play hall monitor or teacher's pet or you name it and got to tell on it. I'm telling. That bothers me more than anything. Let them live their lives. What does the color of their house have to affect anything else? Unless they're painting it something ridiculous. I can't see them painting it.
No, it doesn't matter, Noodles. They could paint graffiti on it. It doesn't matter. I want to know who made the call saying, I want this stopped because somebody did.
Want that too. I would pay big money for access to that call. Right?
Anybody
maybe
gets access, backdoor access to the City of Toronto call log. Let us know who ratted them out.
You know what it is?
We want to know who called in Morgan Rielly on
who it is.
A house painting. Come on.
It's 2 words. A concerned citizen. That's it. I'm a concerned citizen. That's how it is. Instead of just being a mind your own business citizen, that's what it is. It bothers me. I'm sure there's more to it. Yeah.
Hey, listen, the history of the city and the character of the city, a lot of times it gets run over. Condos go up everywhere, right? We knock down unbelievable pieces of architecture and history. And, there's I think it was this
They
week,
would knock
Phoenix.
that house down in 4 seconds and put a new condo up there. They
Absolutely.
don't care.
Yeah. But it's not about the structure. It's about the paint. It's about you can't paint something.
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, obviously those are the rules. My guess would be someone got denied in the past and they were bent out of shape that it's a Leaf that was doing it, and they thought this guy's going to get away with it because it's Morgan Rielly. So I'm not going to accept that. So I'm calling it in. And I guess if you're at the city, the best would be there's probably people at the city that are like, are you kidding me? We got to go do this. Like,
are you
all
wasting
right.
our time?
I guess, yes, we'll send someone up and we'll see what they're doing and put a stop to it. And I'm not sure why it just got out now, because I think this was a couple of years ago where they actually started this. But anyway, humble brag. He's got a lot of money. Tessa Virtue's got a lot of money. They're
a power
North
couple.
Rosedale.
They're amazing
and Love
people.
and Life.
Amazing people. I love Mo.
Yes.
You guys know I love Mo. And,
awesome guy.
And
awesome
Tessa,
guy.
like I was, around. When they first were meeting and dating, and honestly, they're an amazing couple.
Are you a matchmaker? Are you breaking news here? Like
not
you're
at all.
matchmaking
Not at all.
noodles? That's kind of what that sounded like.
No, I was around, I believe, when they first started dating. I was, I was up at a buddy's
house. You were just around? Okay.
I would say around. The point being is that I know them, and I'm happy for them, and they're the amazing couple. Around is the wrong verbiage. I don't know why.
What does that mean? You're just hanging
standing
around,
in the back.
He's around the green guy.
He's around the green guy.
Around the green guy. Around the Rosedale guy. Maybe you called it in. You're like, the paint's changing.
I was a concerned citizen. Yeah, concerned citizen. Really worried about the paint on the outside of their house. Let them paint their beautiful house and move on with life. People have, like I say, I've told you guys this before. I wish there was one day on the calendar where it was National Shut the You-Know-What Up Day, where people just don't complain and don't call people in and tell and do all of this stuff. I don't know when that would be, because there's too much problems in the world to solve. There's always something for somebody to complain about.
I had one complaint before we get to the sports stuff. I have a new sleeping arrangement, which is affecting me greatly. My wife's decided that we're not using the AC because it gets too cold for the cats. And her response is, no more duvet, just a flat sheet. That's our sleeping arrangement now. That's all I get. And that's supposed to...
it's tough.
You've lost all control. You've lost all control.
Hazy,
that's absurd. You can't live like that.
Dude, Rambo in First Blood, when he crawled into the woods, had a better sleeping arrangement than I do. It's one flat sheet, and that's all I get. And I like it ice cold with a duvet, a nice fluffy duvet, like a high-end one. That's all I like. I've resorted to flat sheet guy, and that's all.
With heat, scorching heat, too.
But I don't understand this. Like, I can understand if your wife was cold because you like it cold like a meat locker. The cats have fur on them. They actually come with it's called a coat.
I take
it's called a fur coat.
How would you know that, too? How would you know they're cold?
If you lay it out,
I asked, dude.
But how could you ever know that a cat is cold?
If you lay out a
Siberian forest cats, they play in the snow.
I know, but if she had a piece of paper that said, "Are you cold?" Yes, over here. No, over there. Do they put the paw over to the yes?
Exactly.
They're not scratching yes.
We're freezing. Get that AC off. Meow. Get that AC off. Meow.
It's ridiculous. I got to be honest.
That's absurd.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
It's similar.
I love your wife, but that's absurd. That's absurdities.
Rambo,
that's worse than the Rosedale paint job.
First Blood in the woods in the hut he built had better sleeping arrangements.
You know what? You're right. I can picture that. It was a lean-to. He just had the wood and the lean-to.
He had a great life.
Man.
He had a great life.
Guys in the jungle.
I'm going to top the one complaint.
Okay.
I will bring this up about animals since you brought it in. I went to the mall today with the kids. We were doing some stuff. There was, I don't know how, again, I'm not the biggest animal person. There was a dog in a stroller. Like there was a lady.
Walking around the mall.
A lady with a dog in the stroller. Pushing the dog in the stroller. I kept looking for a baby that maybe, she was holding the baby and the dog was in the stroller. Like that is illegal.
That's allowed now. That's allowed in society. You can basically go anywhere. Cats, dogs, as long as they're in a stroller, it's all good. But, I hear you, man. We all had different experiences today, but yet here we are. Here we are.
Loving it.
And we're ready to rock.
Yeah.
And yesterday you mentioned Bob Stauffer, who had kind of a shrapnel tweet, an unnecessary Maple
Talk to
Leaf.
Bob.
How much action?
Actually, we should look that up. I haven't looked it up recently. I'll go back and look at it. I guarantee you the ratio's off the charts. The likes are off the charts. The retweets. It'll be quote tweeted more than any other tweet throughout the Cup final. And we've noticed that even with the NBA Finals, which is a little bit surprising to me because the Celtics are such a massive brand. Like the Boston Celtics are a huge brand, one of the 3 biggest brands in NBA history, and certainly remains that today. Yet everyone's still talking about what the Lakers are going to do. It's all about the Lakers coaching. Are they going with Hurley? Are they going to go with Redick? They were asking Jason Kidd what he thinks about that. The guy's coaching in the NBA Finals. And it's constant. Before the game, they were doing reports on what's going to happen with the Lakers, not teeing up the game. And the same thing with the Leafs. It speaks to the magnitude of these brands, the Lakers brand, the Maple Leaf brand, the Cowboy brand. If there's something going on with them, the media naturally gets attached to it because they understand that there's going to get a reaction. And today's rendition of the Leafs in the Cup final, because even though they're not, they always are represented, is Zach Hyman was doing his media, and he was asked for some reason about him leaving. It's not like he left a year ago. This guy left 3 years ago in 2021. He's 3 years in to his 7-year deal. He was asked about leaving Toronto and signing in Edmonton. And he said, quote, "It's easy when it's not really your decision," end quote. So just a little jab there at, I guess, Dubas and Shanahan and the Leafs. In other words, and he elaborated on that, saying, "I wanted to stay, always dreamt of being a Leaf my whole life. From there, my wife's from there, love it there. But basically they didn't want me anymore. Edmonton did, and I said, thank you very much, and now the rest is history."
That's on them then.
That's of
you know
course
what I mean?
it's on the
that's
Leafs.
flat on the
It's
Leafs and their management. That's not like Zach Hyman basically admitting, like, yeah, I would have liked to stay. Now, at what price point? You'd have to
Still
be
business,
fair.
of course.
To be fair, it's a business. You got to know what was offered in front of him, but that's on management.
And to my knowledge, Noodles, it wasn't like it was like peanuts where it was like you can have 5. It's not like it was that far off, and he got, I don't know what the extra was, but it wasn't like. And hey, should they have kept him retrospectively? Yeah, you should have kept the guy, but it's not like it was a garbage offer. That to my knowledge, that
the Leafs were offering him stuff. It sounds as if, and my understanding is, you guys are more connected than I am. It was more about the no move, no trade, which is ironic because the Leafs are dealing with a no move and no trade that might handcuff what they really want to do here, and it speaks to really what this 8 years of Leaf history can be boiled down to is the contracts. Like there's a number of things you can look at. You can look at wins and losses, of course, playoff history, individual success, regular season success. Again, you can't lose sight of the fact that there's been great things that have happened. It hasn't been horrible being a Leaf fan for years. It's quite the opposite. It's been horrible in the spring. It's been crushing in the spring, but there has been hope. It's not as if you've gone into the playoffs every year and said this team is a joke or a disaster or whatever, or going into regular seasons and thought anything other than they're going to be a good team. And that's what they've been. They've been consistently a really good team with really good players, and there's been a lot of highlights, and sure there's been lowlights, and sure there's been disappointments, and the playoff history is what it is. They got to own that. It's their history. But beyond that, really it's contracts. Like that might be the word that you use to describe the last 8 years, or at least the last 5 or 6, because the contracts handed out to certain players who stayed and the contracts that were not either kept or signed to certain players that were willing to stay. And Hyman's probably at the forefront of the guys that left. Nazem Kadri's probably right behind him. Though he didn't leave, they traded him.
Yeah.
He was making $4.5 million when he won a cup for Colorado. $4.5 million. And probably if he stayed, probably would still be a Leaf. And there's all these different things you can do if you could put the puzzle back together. But, with the big four, the core four, it was always you get whatever you want. Money, dollars, term, no move, no trade. And then they finally put the stake in the ground for one guy, it sounds like, and it was Hyman. And Hyman turns out to be a guy that's now in a cup final that scores 50 goals a year. Yeah. And they got to chew on that. Leaf fans have to chew on it. There's nothing you can do.
No getting around
Can't go back on it now.
No, and we'll see how it fares. But, the one thing that you have moving forward, and if you're a Leaf fan, it's, listen, Brad Treliving, it sounds like after his first year, after getting to know everybody and all of that type of stuff, him and Shanny are going to be together again. We weren't sure. It sounds like they got the vote of Shanny got the vote of confidence, obviously. Mm-hmm. So maybe Tree gets a little bit longer leash to do what he wants to do with the team. I don't know what that is, but it's an opportunity to either change the look, change the dynamic, add to places where he felt like he couldn't do that, either, through bad deals at the deadline or guys not available, free agency, if you got some money to spend. There's lots of decisions, and Tree's got lots of work ahead of him, but I would argue I'd love to see what this team from the end of the season, from their last game of the playoffs, looks like differently compared to the first game of the season, like first game of the regular season. I would argue it's probably going to look a lot different.
Yeah.
I get big brother syndrome, I think, when it comes to this stuff, where it's like we kick these guys in the junk all the time when they don't get it done or this and that. And then it's over with, and you get through this, and then this stuff, people start chirping them, and it kind of, I don't know, I just find it a little bit irritating. It's like, okay, let's let the dust settle here. They've been kicked in the junk. We're moving on. It's the Cup Finals with two teams, not them, and they just pop up. It's like first Bobby Stauffer off the top turnbuckle. Now it's Hyman. It's like, okay. But like you said, Hayes, it's any chance you get with a market like that, people will just intertwine it and kick sand, and that's what happens, man.
Yeah.
I would argue, and my question, too, on the Lakers thing, would the Lakers get that much pub if LeBron wasn't there?
Probably
because
not.
I still think it's LeBron that still moves that needle, right?
Like, I mean, the Lakers are the biggest brand in the NBA, but LeBron is equally as big.
Right.
That makes sense.
So it kind of ties together. They weave together, right?
Yes.
He's biggest player and the biggest brand type of thing.
Well, but big names also move the needle. It's not like the Leafs were getting a lot of attention when they were bottoming out, and it was Lupul and P.A. Parento and that cast of characters.
Komarov,
when you got Matthews and big name players, it just moves the needle more.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that definitely helps. And, that speaks to LeBron and his impact on the Lakers. And it's all tied to that. It's not even like, hey, Hurley's going to coach the Lakers. It's Hurley's going to coach LeBron.
Yes.
And how's that going to work? Or J.J. Redick, and how's it going to work? And whether or not it's a job you want, whether or not LeBron's going to accept you, which is a wild statement when you think about it. He's, 39 years old, and yet you really got to make sure that a player on your team is cool with what you're all about. And that kind of feels like what's going to happen here if it is Dan Hurley in the end. And it sounds as if he's flying out there and he's meeting with the brass and he's got to make a call. He just won a national championship with UConn. He's obviously a guy that's done it all at the collegiate level. Taking that next step, that's different. Yet, probably watching last night, swing and a miss on taking the plus 6.5. Like Boston just destroyed Dallas last night.
I know.
And Kyrie was brutal. And you see him after the game, he's trying to be tongue-in-cheek and joke. Actually, I thought the crowd would be louder. It wasn't really that bad. It's like, dude, you were brutal. Let's play Kyrie. This is Kyrie on the crowd, which this was a big part of the buildup because they can't stand him in Boston. He hasn't done well against the Celtics really since he left Boston. And they were all over him last night, and he really, really struggled. Here was Kyrie Irving on the crowd at the Garden last night.
Over the past few years, just experiencing the playoffs here, even regular season, it's been the same thing. I thought it was going to be a little louder in here, but I'm expecting the same things going into Game 2, crowd trying to get me out of my element.
Which I would say I don't know if they did or not, but he was out of his element. Like, I don't know if it was the crowd, but Kyrie he didn't bring much to the table last night. Porzingis, who obviously has that history in Dallas, he played 20 minutes last night, went off.
Well, Kyrie also said in one of his comments, and this is where the big thing comes in, because we talk about, bringing it back to the Leafs again, we talk about some of their performances where they don't get it done. And you would wish that they go out there and say, I just wasn't good enough. And Kyrie after said, I'll take accountability for that. But, okay, you said that, but what the hell does that actually mean? Unless you play better in Game 2. Like, to actually say, I'll take accountability for being terrible out there tonight, what are we really – I mean, I like that he said that, but in actuality, what are you really getting for it? Like if Mitch Marner said, you know what, I could have been better out there, and that might have been the difference. It was like, okay, that's great you said that, and you want them to say that, but what are you really getting out of that if they're not better in game 2? It really doesn't mean a whole lot.
You're right, but at least Kyrie has an opportunity to be better. Like right now,
that's true.
He goes, hey, I need to be better because I wasn't good tonight. You said Mitch Marner and the guys who didn't, had all the cliches at the end of the season. If Mitch Marner said, hey, you know what? I didn't like the way I played in the playoffs. I'm going to be better. I'm going to have a good summer, and I'll see you at training camp ready to rock. Then you're going, okay, this guy is, let's see what you got in training camp. I don't mind. We always say disarm people with the truth. Go right at them. Hey, I need to be better. I want to be better. I can be better. That type of stuff. It's not going to change anything until you go and do it, and I think that's what you're saying, but I would much rather have an athlete say, I didn't like what I was doing out there. I got to be better instead of excuse train,
Exactly. And yes, actions will always speak louder than words. But if you tie the two together, that's where you get legendary moments. Like you get the guy that's like, I've been brutal, but I guarantee you I'll be great and we're going to win. And then he does it. That's the stuff of legend, right? That's what you're looking for ultimately. But you need the follow through. Acknowledging it, yes, great, you acknowledged it, good for you. Everyone already knows that. At least you're not running from it, but now you got to follow that up.
Right.
Jay's in Oakland tonight. Dallas Braden will join us. Mike Johnson today. We will get to our keys to victory, right? We're going to do that today with the Oilers and the Panthers. We're going to pick the Cup winner, too. Look at the lines, courtesy of FanDuel today. And absolute nightmare fuel at the end of a 20-kilometer race walk today in Europe. We'll tell you about it. We'll play it. We've never talked about this before.
No, dude.
It's literally a first.
I'm not going to Google it, but I've seen what can happen. And if it's that, you're not.
No, it's not. It's competitive. It's not about something goofy. Well, it's goofy, but it's worthy of playing and talking
So it's
about.
not one of the athletes having an accident near the finish line?
Not an accident per se. Just I'll play it and we'll break it down.
Yeah.
Okay. When do I ever reference race walking? You got to trust me on this one.
Exactly.
Okay? When am I ever? I don't have takes on this. It's just something happened, and there's a woman in particular that is really, really hating life right now. Okay, because of the way the match or the race ended up.
The match.
It's a race. It was heroic. It was heroic in nature, and it burned her in the end. That's my tease, okay? Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN Plus. All right, Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Dallas Braden coming up here in a moment. The race-walking video that is causing a stir around the world, we'll play that. We'll get into it. It wasn't necessarily controversial, but they all look like they're running. It's tough. I don't know how you race walk without just saying, screw it, man, I'm running. I'm not doing this anymore.
Isn't it all in the hips type of thing? It's
all in the hips. All in the hips.
Fan of the show. Evan Dumfries is a fan of the show, man.
Yeah.
He's a world
He's
champion.
an Olympian, man. He's a world champ.
Oh, that's
Remember
right.
in Tokyo? Remember when he finished, I want to say he finished with a bronze, and it was like 100 degrees out, and people were passing out. Remember, we interviewed him not long after, and he said it was wild. Like the whole race, guys were just dropping because it was way too hot.
He told me after that he could beat me in 100 meters when he would race walk and I was sprinting, and he said he would win.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a real big moose then.
I think I was putting money on Dunphy, man. Not anymore. You dust him now.
I would have bet on Evan back then. I think now
100%.
Now you
100%. He would have crushed. You lost to Al's brother, dude. You lost to Al's brother in a 40-yard dash. You're not beating an Olympian if he's walking? Speed walking.
That's what you were doing, too, in that race. You were speed walking.
Yes.
Al's brother was actually speed walking. Remember the hands?
Yeah,
where he was like pumping
running.
the hand? He wasn't running.
His knees weren't bending.
Yes,
Al's brother's knee did
forced
not
up with the
bend.
stilts, and his pants were falling down by the end.
Jeans. I think he was wearing
We got to
jeans.
revisit that run, just Al's brother, because if you look at it, the hands are just out of control.
Yes.
He's trying to drive himself over the line with the hands, and I think his pants were falling down by the end.
It was really not a pretty sight, but he did beat the O-Dog with the head jaunt at the end. He got him.
Yeah,
right?
he leaned in with the bucket.
He leaned in at the end. All right, do you want to play? Why don't we just play the
Yes.
video? Because I don't need the audio. But the woman's name is Laura Garcia Caro. She thought she had won the bronze. Okay, it's a 20-kilometer race walk. And I guess around the final turn, like someone threw the Spanish flag at her too, like, hey, congratulations, that's great stuff. And she had a you-know-what eating grin on her face, like just kind of moseying home thinking it was over. I don't know if we're going to play this video or not. Here it is. And look at her. Look at how cocky she is. She's like, I'm walking towards bronze, and I've got my flag. And this woman just dust past her in the end.
The look on her face, like, oh,
God.
no.
Yeah, and she finishes fourth and off the podium, and she's just in shock and embarrassed by the end. Like
That is tough.
You cannot celebrate early before you cross the line. You can't do that kind of stuff.
But
Amateur
wasn't
hour.
somebody like, wasn't somebody saying you better move your ass?
Yes. You would think people would be yelling
Her
at
coach
her. But
would be yelling at
she
that.
probably thought, hey, everyone's cheering me on. Meanwhile, they're yelling, move. You know, like, what are you doing? She's right on your tail.
You got to play that again. I need to see the look on her face.
The start of the video,
she's
she's got the biggest smile. She's got the flag. She's just, the whole nine. Bronze, here I come. And this
just
other woman,
high-stepping it in, just strutting in,
Yeah,
and then
it's so
just dusted at the end. That's a guy who celebrates a touchdown and drops the ball outside the end zone.
What was
Fumbles-
the Dallas
fumbles on the
Cowboys in the
1-yard line.
snow against somebody, New England or somebody?
Wasn't
where it
that
was-
Leon Lett? Was that?
Leon Lett, I think he ran the wrong way, didn't he, Noodles? Wasn't that where he ran into his own end zone?
I thought he fell and kicked the ball into the end zone by accident, was
Possibly.
running towards it in the snow.
But there's been numerous where guys like get close and they stick their hand out. Guy swats it. They're not over the line. It's insane. That would get you cut, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's been examples of guys home free and they just drop the ball early because they're trying to be cool or cocky. Like I'm an inch into the end zone and I drop the ball, and they drop it prematurely, and they go back and look at the review and like that's a touchback, dude. You're 2 yards before the line. You drop the ball prematurely. You can't do it.
I think it happened in the CFL. I remember there was a punt returner, Henry Gizmo Williams.
Yes.
And Gizmo ran it back for like 100 yards, and he was doing the high step with the one hand on the ball, and he dropped it right at the 5-yard line. And I don't know what happened. I think I know, like, obviously it either went out or it got it was a fumble. I think it was. Those are crazy. Like, just finish the race. Stop
Just
hot
finish
dogging
it.
it.
Exactly.
That's really that.
Grab the flag and do your smiling and your pictures and stuff after you finish the race.
Yeah.
Get to the finish line. That's what the Oilers and the Panthers need to be looking at. Right? That's inspiration. You haven't accomplished anything yet. You're still 4 wins away, which, in the grand scheme of things of a Stanley Cup playoff run, 4 wins obviously is not that much, but it still feels like a lot, doesn't it?
It
like
is.
4 more against a really good team who's so hungry. And they're both looking at each other realizing how hungry they are because they've both made it this far. And they've both been pretty much all business the whole time. Like, that's one thing I appreciate with Edmonton and Florida. Like, they have not – it's almost as if they haven't allowed themselves to soak it in.
You don't have time, man. It's just, you feel good for 5 minutes after the game, and then you're like, we got to get ready for the next one. The finals, though, you're kind of re-energized. But I will say that. It might take a period where you're like, this is back on the grind. But you realize there's only 2 teams left, and you're kind of jacked up. And in media day, you realize it's a massive event, and you're fired up. Like, you're re-energized. And after whatever happens at the end, you realize that you just did something for 2 months that was extremely grueling. Mm-hmm. But before the final starts, it's like, I don't know. I felt like any nicks or bruises or whatever all gone. It's like, let's get this thing going, and then whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
Well, and you can probably speak to it that what probably makes it so heartbreaking, beyond the fact that it was a lifelong dream and you were so close, is that you both hit the off season at the same time. Like, you lost, and you get a shortened summer, shortened off season. Right. And the guy who won the cup, it's like, yes, we're both starting our vacation at the same time, only I have the cup ring. I have the cup. Like, you go that far, and it's not to suggest that you'd rather be swept in the first round so you can go to Europe. Like, it's always worth the ride. It's always
Hayes, to sum it up, it's a long way to go to get nothing out of it.
Exactly.
You
exactly.
get the Eastern Conference trophy. That's one of the NHL trophies, but that's all you get out of it. And the difference of getting the cup for a day and your name on the cup, it's a lot different, and it's obviously a lot better because you go all that way, and it's a real. Even in the conference finals, you go to the conference finals, you're like, that's a long way to go to just get kicked in the junk and you get nothing for it. That's why it's the greatest trophy in sports.
Yeah. Well, and like Chris Drury's doing media today, I guess, down in New York, and being peppered with questions. Like, some of the line of questioning resembled what the Leafs were being asked.
Yeah.
And meanwhile,
they
won 2 more rounds and won a couple of games in a conference final. And Drury's responses are like, well, I like a lot of these guys individually, but maybe the mix doesn't work. I'm paraphrasing here. But you would think that was a guy who finished with 84 points, the way he had to answer some of those questions. Meanwhile, they're in the conference final.
Yeah.
And
expectation, right? They won the President's Trophy. Expectation there, that fan base. You want to talk about, hardened fan bases, like, north of the border, everyone, the Rangers, like, their fans are passionate, and that's a big fan base too.
Yeah, they sure are. Jays on the West Coast in Oakland tonight. The Dodgers are on the East Coast. They're in New York this weekend. That's going to be great. Yankees, Dodgers. It sounds like Juan Soto, just inflammation in his forearm, not going to be a major issue. It seems like the Yankees and Soto possibly dodged a bullet here. But let's head out to the West Coast. Here he is, Oakland Athletics analyst, host of Baseball is Dead podcast, our buddy Dallas Braden. What's happening, Dallas? Uh-oh. Yeah, we got the audio issues here. Can we hear him? I don't know. This is another scenario where maybe we can't hear you. We'll try to get you back, and we'll bring you back in here because I think this happened to us last week. We can't hear you right now. There he is. Yeah, we'll bring Dallas Braden back in. Same issue I think we had in the past. So
we're working on it. It's technical difficulties, technology and stuff, right?
Technology and stuff. I feel like Rick Wilde here. We're running a Kansas City Chevrolet. But yeah, the Yankees, Dodgers tonight. You got Shohei in the Bronx, and those are are they the 2 best teams in baseball? Very well could be. And, you talk about brands and you talk about big cities and big superstars. It doesn't get much bigger than the Yankees, the Dodgers, Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge.
That's a must. If you're walking around, I've told you guys before, walking around New York City, the buzz is that Rocket Clemens was on the mound. He was going for some milestone, strikeouts or whatever, and it seemed like it was like you had to go to Yankee Stadium to watch that. And if Shohei's there with the way those 2 teams are playing, that's where you want to be, man. That'd be an awesome game to go to.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to try Dallas again. Are we doing this over the phone? Are we gassing the video here? It sounds that way. All right, Dallas, sorry about that, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing well, boys. I'm doing well. We're talking now. We're chatting.
Yes, we're all good. Well, we've been talking. Obviously, we got Jays in Oakland tonight. We'll get to that in a moment. But Yankees, Dodgers in the Bronx. Doesn't get much bigger than that this weekend. I know, the Phillies have been great, obviously, this year. Baltimore is kind of trailing the Yankees, but they're in close with them. But are these the 2 best teams, in your opinion? Dodgers in the American League, Yankees in the or Dodgers in the National League, Yankees in the American League. Where do you stand on these 2 right now?
I think so. I think it's pretty easy to be bullish on both squads. I think when you understand what Atlanta has gone through, losing Strider, losing Acuna Jr., it's not to say that they have to piece it together per se, because they still got a pretty deep squad, a pretty deep lineup, a decent bench, still got arms. I mean, Max Fried is absolutely out of his mind right now. He's living on another planet. He's pitching in the bigger leagues. Everybody else is playing in the big leagues. So they've got answers. But I think right now it goes without saying that the Los Angeles Dodgers have positioned themselves as, again, the front runner in the National League. And what you're seeing from the Yankees right now, what you're getting from Aaron Judge, and with the arrival of Soto, I said this the other day on our podcast, Baseball is Dead. Subscribe, leave a comment. That, hey, I think this is what you were expecting when Stanton showed up, right? With these 2, with a Judge and a Stanton. This was what this was why their mouth was watering. Is because they anticipated this sort of damage from a dynamic duo. But it has come in the form of Soto, which has honestly allowed Stanton, it seems, to be able to kind of slide back into the shadows a bit and get back to not only physically, as we have literally seen him transform, but maybe just approach-wise, get back to being a more rounded-out hitter. And I think the arrival of Soto and what he demands and what he commands by his performance has allowed them to sort of, filter out all the other noise about who's going to do what, and it's allowed these guys to just, perform at a level where, the offense, the pitching staff, we're talking about some of the highest marks across the game on both sides of the baseball.
Dallas, those Yankees, it seems like if they do take a break from, not being great or not being in the mix for World Series plans, it doesn't take long for them to circle back. Like, it must be a hell of a feeling to be a part of one of those organizations where it's like, we're going to be awesome and we're going to try to win it all, and that's the only goal. I mean, we've talked a lot in the different sports about big markets, small markets, the pressure in big markets, but to be a part of something where it's just about being awesome and winning, that's got to be where it's at in Major League Baseball.
Well, I think that's where it's at, regardless of what surface you're playing on, right? Whether it's dirt, ice, hardwood, grass, or clay, you want to be a part of. That's it. You want to be a part of those trophy conversations. You want to be a part of a group when you walk into spring training or you're walking into OTAs or whatever it is, where there's just a baseline expectation where we're disappointed if we're having talks about backing into a wild card, backing into a potential postseason berth. Like that's ugly talk. We don't have those kind of conversations. Those are reserved for the last day of the season. Here's where it's all shaken out because we've had to clear hurdles. We've been battling the whole way here, and this is where we're at. No. To have those championship aspirations is not only where you want to be, but it's also what you want to be a part of. But it takes a certain approach. It takes a certain level of accountability, I think, from the entire group for those kind of expectations to be not only instilled, but obviously met. And if you're the Yankees, think about what they have going on right now with Luis Gil spearheading that rotation. You've got a guy in Garrett Cole who his first time out was 97 off the mound. Everything felt great, he said. He's probably going to take 2 more turns potentially to get that pitch count up to a level where when he comes into the game or when he comes back to the big leagues, it's 100 pitch. Hey, all the training wheels are off. Go get him, big guy. And I think that's a hell of a place to be when you have that kind of Cy Young arm waiting to join a rotation that is setting high water marks, again, across baseball. So that's kind of where the Yankees are at right now. So they call that the driver's seat, and that's a fun place to be.
With Dallas Braden, it sure is. Jays in Oakland tonight. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about the Athletics. You played for them, you cover them, you live there, you're an analyst. How's it going out there? I mean, not necessarily wins and losses, but how are people kind of reacting to the last couple of years, the future? What's the vibe like in Oakland right now?
Well, I think the vibe is very mixed, and I think it's understandable because there's going to be conversations about the passion and people's opinions about the state of the franchise, the state of the organization, and where things are going, where things aren't going, blah, 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 blah. And then I think there's I don't want to call it a subset of fans. I think there's just another part of the fan base that is, I think, starting to just embrace the idea that if this is the last time I'm going to be able to see my Athletics, there's just going to be things that I'm not going to let get in the way of that. And so I can understand both sides of that conversation. And again, I am nobody to tell anybody how to process what you might be feeling is lost, how to process what you feel could be your last opportunity. People deal with grief in many ways, and I am nobody to tell anybody how to handle those things. So I'm just somebody who, if I can be present and have those conversations with people, and I'm part of the opportunity to say goodbye, or I'm part of the opportunity to have those memories, then that's what I feel like my job is. And so that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting from the fans right now. And again, I understand both sides. But from a baseball perspective, I think what has really helped the guys on the field is they've been able to see the dedication from the diehard fans that are showing up and choosing to process it differently, just by saying, hey, I'm here for you guys. We support you guys, and I want you to hear our voices, if nothing else, because this is what I've grown up doing. This is what I've brought my kids to do, and we'll do this together until we don't have the opportunity to do it anymore. So I think ultimately it's a lot of good baseball energy that is coming from a lot of different places, and I think you're ignorant to ignore that, but you also understand that, what we have on the field is also something to still be excited about. And to your point about not showing up in the wins and losses, when you have a team constructed the way the Athletics are right now, you do look for silver linings, and you're looking for individual player growth. And so you're looking for quality of at-bats, right? You're looking for what sort of aggression are we seeing from the pitchers in terms of attacking in the strike zone? Are we seeing growth there? Because if we are, then we can start to turn our eye toward the future and be excited about what the product on the field could look like. And I know as a fan, that's a tough pill to swallow, because you're saying, well, I've spent 5-10 years maybe having this sort of outlook. I want more. Well, I understand, but I'm just the dude who's calling baseball games. So if I get to hang out with the folks at home for a few hours a day, I know my responsibility is just to convey to them how hard the guys on the field are working. And if they spend some time at the ballpark, I know they see that as well. So, if it's the last ride into the sunset here, I'm in a position where I feel honored to be able to share that with our fans.
Well, enjoy it while you can, I think that's great attitude. We'll see what the Jays bring to town. There'll definitely be Jays fans rolling in. A lot of people flying in from Vancouver, BC, the west coast of Canada. So it'll be a fun atmosphere tonight and throughout the weekend. Great catching up with you, Dallas. Thank you for doing this, buddy. No problem. Good to see you, boys. Maybe next time I'll actually see you, boys. Yes, you got it. We'll sort that out. Absolutely. Dallas Braden joining us, the Oakland Athletics analyst and Baseball is Dead podcast.
Have you ever seen some of the videos he does? Like, he comes out of his hot tub and stuff.
He has a vibe about him.
Oh yeah, he's got he's got these cool what are they called, like Volkswagen vans. He's got souped up ones. He's got a cool gig out there in Cali.
He's got a California vibe to him.
Yeah, sure. He's got a cool gig.
Yeah.
He goes to games, and I don't know if he works, but he's sits out in the outfield. Have you seen those pics he takes?
Yeah.
He's just at work, and he's just out by himself with Nike shoes on out in the outfield.
Yeah. It's a weird vibe around that team. Everyone kind of knows what's coming. They're leaving.
Right.
Fans aren't showing up. The team's terrible.
Dude, I wouldn't show up either. If I knew it.
I don't blame people at all.
No.
Yeah, I don't blame people at all. And the team sucks. It'd be one thing if they were a great team. That might be even more hurtful if you're a fan.
I still wouldn't go.
I think I probably wouldn't either. I'd be so disappointed. I'd be so sick and tired. And I would know going there I'd be handing money to the owner, an owner that's ripping the team away from me. Yet, if it's something you've loved and experienced forever, let's say you got young kids and you're like, I want to take them to the same place I went to, when I was a kid before they leave, because they're never coming back, more than likely. That'll be interesting. Do you just become a Giants fan? I doubt it. You probably hate the Giants, right? If you're an A's fan, you probably hate the Giants. I'm not sure.
You think a guy like Dallas goes with the team? Or do you, that's, you wonder.
Him in Vegas, he may be up for that.
Well, I thought about that, though. Our buddy Tyson Nash, who does color in Arizona. Is Utah going to just have a new crew, a new everything,
Good
right?
question.
Or are they going to give an opportunity for everybody who is in Arizona, especially lifers there, to come with it? The Utah, what is it, Mammoth? There's 8. We're down to 8 teams,
I think
right?
they're down to less than that. I thought it was 4 or 5. Yeah, we'll come back and revisit that, because the names, there's some pretty good names, and we've been on a few ourselves in terms of what we're looking at. So, Mike Johnson coming up. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Mike Johnson coming up in the next hour. Our cup picks, our keys to victory. Might do a little snake draft as well, picking which players we would want on our team for a cup final between the two rosters.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's, a lot of options, man. A lot of options.
Could we throw in coaches, assistant coaches, anybody in the organization we'd like to have on our squad?
That's a very good call.
Bonus.
I think we can get very creative. Your boy Paul Maurice is slaying, man. This guy's on a comedy tour.
Well, let me just ask you on the spot, Hazy. If you could go to war in the finals with either coach, Knobloch or Maurice, who would you like to sit down and have standing behind you? Which guy?
I'd probably say Maurice because of experience.
What the hell are you talking about? We've talked about experience all week. What is that going to do for you?
Well,
you think he's going to know how to handle things better?
I don't know. I mean, he's seen it all in the NHL.
See, you just gave a cliche answer without any grounds.
You asked me a hypothetical question. Who would I want behind the bench? I'd say Maurice. That's like, I don't know Knobloch enough. Maurice, we've interviewed. I've met him a bunch of times. He's been in the league forever. Knobloch is still somewhat of a foreign figure, I think, for a lot of people. He's done a great job. I don't know if there's a wrong answer. It's not like that's a slight on Knobloch. You got to pick someone. I pick Mo. You're saying you'd pick Knobloch? Knobloch would
I'm not saying, hey, I didn't ask myself the question.
Well, I'll ask you at 5 p.m. It's coming up. You're going to get asked. Think about your answer. I want it promptly in 5 minutes.
You can't do that to me. That's my that's my former coach. You cannot do that to me.
TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.